Hey, so I wanted to talk about river sand and kind of some of the challenges of using river sand. Um, it's not that it's always bad. Uh, there certainly are ways you could use it. And for instance, what I got here, this is from a place I found. Just picked up a little bit of the sand, and you can see that there's some bigger stuff, right? And then you've got some like pebble-sized things, and then you have some stuff you could probably call sand. That's still some pebbles mixed in there, but some of the really small stuff like that, I guess. I guess I could call that sand. So, problem is, in this particular case, right, this area had like all sorts of different uh, granularities, I guess, of sand or rock, I guess more accurately. And this is kind of granite, so I'm not maybe as concerned about salts and stuff, although that's another thing we'll get into. Um, in this case, though, it would be hard for me to be like, oh yeah, I could use this, um, you know, in the soil. I just have these huge rocks sometimes, and if you got a really small plant, for instance, in a house plant, and you have a rock like this size, that can plug the drain hole. That could be just like a rock that is in there, not really for how big the pot is. It's not providing a lot of nutrients because there's no nutrients really making it to the plant from that rock, most likely. So, you're probably going to want like a finer sand, not necessarily too fine. But I could see a lot of this if I took out the big rocks, the stuff, and kept, the pebbles and kind of like coarse sand that's in here. I could see that going into like a succulent or something like that. So it's not that you can't use it. And I could also see that being used decoratively, like on the top. Crushed granite is used all the time, so that's not really abnormal. Um, However, some other things to consider. If you take basically sand from anywhere, there's always a risk that there's something in there that's not going to be good for your plants. If you're talking about the ocean or just a place that has salts in the water, that could very easily just be the salt. The salt will dehydrate the plant once it's in the soil. So you can certainly rinse off the rocks to try to get the salt off. Of course, there's possibility that maybe some of those salts are the rock. Um, so if there's something that's in the rock that's leaching into the soil, that's not really going to be something you can fix, and you just kind of can't use that sand. So that's kind of why horticultural sand is usually a better option for most of these, kind of situations, whether you're amending ground soil or whether you're adding that to a potting soil mix. You get to decide the coarseness a lot more easily. You spend $20, you get to choose how coarse that sand is going to be, so you can decide on succulents, etc. And frankly, if you're just doing a few houseplants and you don't want a huge mess and you're trying to save time and you're busy, you may just pick up the potting soil, right? You can get cactus soil and whatnot. Um, if you want to mix your own because you have a specific reason, you're mixing because you're really into the horticulture of it or botany of it. I don't know what it would be exactly. But if you're very much into the actual science, the soil science, um, that would be maybe something you'd want to know more about. But if you're really just taking care of houseplants and doing that as like a small time hobby, you're probably just fine sticking with potting soil, and that's what I probably recommend. If you're next to a river, give it a shot. I suppose if you're curious, keep in mind that taking a lot of sand probably isn't good for that ecosystem. So I think just to limit our footprint and also just for the sake of convenience as well. I'm not saying that all sand is necessarily sourced ethically, but uh, I guess that's for you to decide what you think is better. Um, there are probably some areas that you shouldn't collect sand from, so do be aware of local laws or national laws, I suppose, like a national forest. Don't take things from places that are protected. But yeah, that should be about it. If you have any other questions about like using sand or drainage or clay versus sand or any number of other things, take a look through the blog. There's a search up towards the top right of our site. So if you go to planthousesociety.com, we always put the links down at the bottom of the video. So if you go into the description, you'll see the link to the article this is attached to about river sand. And if you go to the top right on the website, you'll also see a little search bar. Just click there. You can pretty well search about anything you want. We've got a pretty good library of content at this point. So if you see something that is missing, just let us know. There's also a contact form on the website. And thank you so much for taking a look. Bye.